he said, and then I forwarded that to Regina, and then that's when Regina called and she said, a lot of things have changed because of this exact situation on the GLO side, and so,
Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, July 8th, 2024 Wilson County Commissioners Court. Before we begin, let the minutes reflect we have a quorum. Before we begin, we're going to have Pastor Jennifer Kelly from the Floresville United Methodist Church lead us in prayer, and then following our pledges.
Micah 6:8 states, "The Lord has shown you, O mortal, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, to act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God." So, Holy God, we come today asking that you pour out your blessings of wisdom and discernment on all those in a position of power and authority to make decisions. We pray that they will be filled with the spirit of compassion, that there will be respect and mercy to bring healing and wholeness to lives and to this community. Lord, we pray that all that is done here today will honor you, and it will be a place of protection and blessing. And we ask it all in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Do we have any public comment? Agenda item number 4, we have any certificates or completion awards that need to go into the minutes?
yes, sir.
All right, we have 4 hours of continuing education through the VG Young Institute for Judge Whitman. Agenda item number 6. We have Kristen Labus, our Assistant County Auditor, discussion only for 10 o'clock. So Kristen will hold off. Is Kristen here?
No, it'll be me, Judge.
Okay, we'll hold off till 10. Let's bypass that. Oh, we have our extension activity reports. Oh, I'm sorry, ladies. Come on up.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
You have our full reports for June, but we just have a couple of highlights that we wanted to talk about. Last month, we wrapped up
$7,000? Oh, nice. Or change your battery out.
Russell, we didn't win, by the way. We
very competitive, yes, so it's fun. Later this week, if not today, everybody will be getting a, information and a flyer for a Stop the Bleed course that we're offering for the county employees. That's gonna be on August 20th from 11 to 1 p.m. At the Expo Center, so, we will have, y'all will have the opportunity to RSVP for that, program. It's been several years since we've had it here in the county, so, or offered it to county employees, so we're excited to have it again. If you've already taken the Stop the Bleed, wonderful, this could be a good refresher course for you. And Judge Whitman is providing lunch, so, yeah.
Ma'am?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay.
And then the last thing is, for me, is also last week, we opened up, we had the grand opening of the Lodi Community Gardens, which is really wonderful, a collaboration with the Lodi community, community partners of mine,
and our master gardeners, with Samantha helping guide those master gardeners so that we have a successful community garden in the Lodi area. So we're excited about that.
Give me the date on that Stop the Bleed date.
August 20th.
Hey, Sheriff, do you want to send one representative over there with their bags so that they can teach the rest of the deputies on those bags, or we have been instructed on them already? It would be, just send one over there so that they can teach the other officers. Every officer now is carrying a level 1 trauma bag, which has stop, bleed, tourniquets. And it'd probably be a good idea we send this one over there. Constable, did you get a bag? Okay,
That's where I had a conversation with you about providing lunch.
okay.
Is that that?
No problem. Commissioner King's gonna really pay for it, but I'll take care of it. No, I will. I'll take care of it. Okay,
That'd be good. Samantha?
all right.
I mean, I don't have very many updates. We're running and going through all the summer things,
Oh, we
but
won't be here in July.
we
so-
won't be here in July because it's crazy. But if y'all have questions or need anything, just let us know.
Call, text us.
So the kickoff is August 25th, 2014 or 24?
Oh, 24.
Make sure
Whoopsies.
we're not going back in time, so.
No, not that far, at least.
Okay.
On there. Yes. And the day before the 4-H kickoff, we're having a health fair at the Expo Center as well, community health fair,
When is the Wild Game fundraiser cook-off? September? correct?
September 14th.
Okay.
Yes.
I meant to ask your husband, do y'all have a 501c3 on that?
Yes.
Okay.
sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, we'll bypass agenda item number 6 until 10 o'clock,
And number 7.
and number 7 as well. Okay, so we move to agenda item number 8. We have Ms. Brenda Trevino, our county auditor. 8A, presentation made by Enterprise Fleet Management for Wilson County Vehicle Fleet.
Thank you, Judge. Commissioners, Judge, I wanted to just kind of give you a heads up. This is a project that we've been evaluating over the last couple of months. Sheriff Stewart actually brought this idea, a year or so ago plus, and the amount of work that it takes to gather all the data, we just finally got around to it. So I would like to introduce the two gentlemen here with Enterprise Fleet. They're going to present what the potential benefits are to moving to a fleet management program with Enterprise. And then the idea is for item B is for you to evaluate to determine not to enter into a contract with Enterprise, but to decide whether or not you want us to move forward with continuing to evaluate by department, because it will affect everybody's budget differently. So I'd like to introduce Paul and Ricardo with Enterprise. Thank you.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. Thank you for having us. We're excited to have this conversation with you guys and kind of walk you through what we've been working on. Brenda, thank you. We've been working with Brenda closely. And Sheriff shared a lot of the information so we could put this analysis together. What we do is we look at the whole fleet. We run an analysis to provide recommendations to better manage the fleet of vehicles. We're Enterprise Fleet Management. A lot of you might be familiarized with Enterprise Rental Car. We're sister companies with Enterprise Rental Car. We manage, under our division, we manage over 700,000 vehicles. And these are some of our Texas partners. You might recognize a few of them. I handpicked a few of them just to give you an idea. In the state of Texas, we're partnered with over 400 government partnerships that we have. And if we move on to the next slide, the way we look at the providing fleet management solutions, it's kind of like a cradle to grave approach. We start with the acquisition, we plan and look at what the needs are, and then we help all the way to the time we get to sell the vehicles for you guys.
So for many of those entities, they have different infrastructure than you folks might have. So most of our programs are a la carte, whatever fits well for each department or precinct. or the county in general, we would implement those different aspects. We work through TIPS and Sourcewell and other cooperatives that allow us to use government pricing and the state contract to offer the competitive prices like state contract dealers. But most importantly, we're helping people run their fleets more efficiently. And the number one concept that we're really trying to drive home is identifying the effective vehicle life cycle. Many companies, commercial businesses, and government entities tend to run their fleet like they do their personal vehicle. I just paid a lot of money for this new truck. I want to run it for as long as I can and try to get every penny out of it. But as having the ability to buy off the state contract, you guys get a much lower front-end cost on new vehicles. Usually do lower mileage patterns than most individuals do, and you have other benefits of a consolidated fleet, which usually leans toward having a lower replacement period. And what we do mostly is consult with government agencies to help understand exactly what their costs are and really pinpoint that exact time, okay? And that's what we've done we started with the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff was very helpful in getting us the most information out of the entire fleet, so we appreciate that. But basically, we look at the mileage pattern of each vehicle type and pin down an average annual miles. And then based on the age, we give a recommendation on a replacement schedule. And the idea is eventually to get to a point where 100% of your vehicles are under the management of enterprise, and we're able to help you guys dial in the costs associated with the life cycle. So if you go to the next one, we can show you an example from our findings with the Sheriff's Department. We evaluated 47 vehicles, and if you look at that orange line at the top, it spells out what the department has typically been doing based on their age and miles of their fleet. On average, they replace 5.4 vehicles a year. Their capital budget for those purchases is about $324,000, and they're selling vehicles after about 9 years in fleet. So after 9 years, those vehicles are very depreciated in terms of their market value, and you're not recapturing a lot of the equity that you put in on the front end. And your maintenance costs are high. On average, Brenda's information told us that you were spending about $232 a month in maintenance on that fleet, and fuel costs were about $198,000. With an overall fleet budget, the far right-hand side of that line was $633,000 on average, okay? What we then look at is, I'm sorry, if you would go back, man. Then what we look at from that point is, what would it look like to transition to a fleet that's never more than 4.5 years old? So the proposed cycle on Sheriff's fleet was 4.4 years of age. That would reduce the overall maintenance costs on a monthly basis down to $86, I believe. In the first year, we would recommend 24 replacements with quite a few vehicles that are aged over the 70 to 100,000 mile range, causing a lot of maintenance costs for the county. In that first year, that would add $403,000 in lease payments. There would be sale proceeds of existing fleet for $233,000, and then maintenance costs are lowered by about $30,000 down to $89,000, and fuel costs lowered as well, with an overall fleet budget that would yield a savings of $146,000. So when you go through the whole cycle of us transitioning the fleet to this methodology, what we're doing is we're moving where you guys are spending money. So rather than a bulk of your money being spent in the operating expense area, we're moving that over to the capital expense area to make your fleet more efficient and help you capitalize on selling vehicles while they're still worth something. In this 10-year snapshot here, the 10-year savings would be $469,000 to the county over the next 10 years, compared to if you just continued buying 5 vehicles per year. And again, this is only a snapshot of the Sheriff's Department. Any questions so far?
So we spend a lot of money on outfitting the vehicles.
Correct.
Is that a part of this, or is this just the vehicle cost?
This is a part of that, yeah. And if, what most of our clients will do with us is like receive a full turnkey ready vehicle. That cost is built into the lease cost. And again, you're spreading out your capital over multiple years so that you can do more with less on an annual basis. You're not buying five $70,000 vehicles. You're buying 1/5 of a $70,000 vehicle, right, on an annual basis. We'll bake all that cost in there. We'll deliver a turnkey-ready vehicle and take that into account when we look at your budget annually.
So Commissioner, just for further clarification, the sheriff sent us a list of all of the required outfitting for one specific vehicle. They shopped around, got the best price that they could out of a company out of Schertz. And then the sheriff also has the ability to choose a local vendor as well that they would work with, that local vendor. When we compared the pricing, it was well within what I think the sheriff right now, we're budgeting around $20,000, between $17,000 and $20,000 for outfitting per vehicle. And that's right around the quote that came in from one of their vendors, so. But yes, that is included in that pricing.
And the leased vehicle is the property of Wilson County, or remains enterprise?
It's under enterprise title, but if we get one more click on this slide, we'll kind of explain the leasing concept. I'll circle back to that. It's worth mentioning too that.
100 questions out of
Yeah,
this.
yeah, I'm sure. But on the question of upfitting, each precinct, each vehicle is going to have separate and different aftermarket equipment that would affect our recommendation on life cycle. And we take that into account when we're looking at that math equation of when's the right time to get out of the vehicle. I think we got one more click there. Okay, so the important point to walk away, might be two more clicks, sorry about that. Important point to walk away in the concept of the leasing model is that this isn't your traditional dealership lease where there's like a mileage pattern and a mileage restriction and wear and tear penalties. Typically in those, it's more of like renting the vehicle than it is actually like owning it. The concept that we use is what's called an equity or open-ended lease that much more mirrors a finance. But the idea is if you're going to sell a vehicle when it's worth, in this example, I think I might be missing the, one more click for me, I'm sorry about that. There you go. If we're going to sell a vehicle for $22,000 and it costs you $42,000 to buy with cash purchase, then if you're still going to sell it with $22,000, it doesn't make sense to necessarily chew up all that cash flow or budget when you know you're going to sell it for something at the end, right? Also, financing it doesn't necessarily make sense as well because you're going to sell it for something when it's the ideal time. In the open-ended leasing model, the idea is we know we're going to target a sale date that's going to yield $22,000 of sale proceeds. So instead of writing it down to 0, we write it down to 10, and ergo makes it a lease because there's a residual payment at the end. But since we're selling it for $22,500, there's going to be $12,500 of equity that's left over after we sell it from what it was written down to that is owned by the lessee. So the county would own that equity, and essentially what we're doing over time is creating this internal replacement fund to offset the higher capital costs that are going to come by buying more vehicles per year. We're lowering your operating costs, and we're creating more equity for you guys to use to offset your capital costs.
What's the target mileage to sell?
It varies greatly on vehicle and what happens in the marketplace. Right before COVID, we had the majority of our city and county governments throughout the country on a F-250 with a toolbox on it, not major upfit. It made sense, turned over every year.
Right.
Because your low mileage patterns, the high resale, and the fact that the manufacturers were giving you $10,000 less than Joe Public to go buy a vehicle it made a lot of sense to do that. Right now, there's lower incentives, there's lower resale value. So we have most of the stuff that we work through the sheriff's office, I think we had on a 60-month term.
So regarding the pursuit vehicles for the sheriff's department, what would be your mileage goal? How much would we get out of that?
Yeah, sorry.
It was
Ricardo.
100,000 miles, so those were set up at 100,000 miles. That's usually, we try to keep it 100 or less. That's when the ideal time to replace the vehicle, considering the maintenance that's gonna go into the vehicle and the resale value.
What if they don't, they will, but what if they didn't reach the 100,000? Is there like a 4-year and then you get another?
Yeah, so just try to think of the leasing concept as like any other type of finance. You're paying down principal on a monthly basis. So if you get to that targeted 5-year point, which we 5 years ago thought was going to be the ideal point, and the market's down or they didn't go as many miles, you'll just continue to pay down principal until it's time to retire the vehicle and, having more equity at the end because you've paid it down more. But it is completely flexible from the standpoint of if your dedicated account manager comes in for your annual review or any of your quarterly reviews while you guys are doing your budgeting season, and we have the scenario from 5 years ago where we're like, Commissioner King, you've got this vehicle that's selling for $10,000 more than you bought it for a year ago. We think you should sell it now. Then we'll make that recommendation, and again, it's more like a finance than it is a lease in that regard.
Yeah, because for us, commissioners, we use our trucks quite a bit, but our other vehicles, we're using, obviously, equipment. So what I have in my fleet right now will never match what the sheriff's gonna have because he's always got patrol cars going, right? So,
Yep.
So I guess that's where my question is. I may be at 32,000 miles in 4 years.
Yep.
On a truck.
Yeah, so this is kind of, this screen that you see right here is how we initially evaluate the ideal term for the vehicle. We'll put together like a cents per mile for each one of your vehicles in each one of your precincts, and come up with a replacement plan like we did with the sheriff. And look at it on an individual basis based on miles, aftermarket equipment, heavy usage. Sheriff's team does a lot of idling and hard driving as well. So we take that all into account when we're making the recommendation. But if we get to whatever that recommendation point is and it makes sense to continue to keep that vehicle in service, then we do that. If a year before we targeted, it makes sense to pull it out of service because there's advantageous resale opportunity or higher government incentives that year, then we would do that as well.
And just for clarification, the way you've done all of the research by department that has vehicles, if one of the commissioners, let's say Commissioner King has 3 vehicles in his fleet that are on your spreadsheet, it doesn't necessarily mean that he has to replace or go with the recommendation of replacing all 3. Maybe you want to keep one that we currently own and say, no, that one's, I want to keep it because it's fairly new, but let's go ahead and do the other 2, right? That's that's the idea of meeting with each individual department to determine what they want, or what they feel is best for their department if we move forward.
Absolutely, yeah, and what typically goes undone is the math equation of looking at the total cost of ownership of the vehicle, and looking at things purely from a capital budget standpoint, you're losing a big part of the equation. So we want to understand how you guys are operating the vehicles, what may be a low mileage site vehicle or a necessary application that has to stay in service, and there's some very unique upfits to it or something like that. But we'll put it all on paper for you annually so that you guys know where our recommendation is coming from, what the why behind it is, and decide whether or not it makes sense to work that into your budget. But eventually, it's all about kind of flatlining your costs, right? We're trying to get to a point where you lose the ebbs and flows of this is a big replacement year or this is a big maintenance cost year. Everything kind of flatlines.
And so for the other departments that are here that drive fleet vehicles, they don't necessarily need a 2,500 or, I mean, we could tell you we need a 1,500 crew cab.
Yeah, we do, I mean, everything from your small little hybrid gas electric car all the way to a CDL, big water truck. We do all that stuff.
You talked about saving 20% in fuel. I mean, I don't see how you can accomplish that. I mean, I know my vehicles I've got, and most of our pickups are gonna be in the 15, 16, 17 miles per gallon range, and that's what they are. I've driven a same Chevrolet style pickup for most of my life, and they all get the same whether they're loaded or empty. I mean, how do you, I'm having a hard time believing that when, you know, there's nothing coming out. I mean, you get a pickup, you get Tahoe, they all get the same mileage pretty much. So talk to me about that.
Front end versus back end.
Yeah,
They're more efficient whenever they're new and they're less efficient whenever they're old.
yeah, so there's not as large leaps and jump, Commissioner, on the front end with some of the like truck applications, especially on like your work trucks, like your 25 and 3500s. Those have always been in that 12 to 14 mile per gallon range. But to Commissioner's point over there is over time, fuel degradation happens when vehicles get older and less efficient. So when you're going 50 miles an hour, losing 1 mile per gallon over the course of 100, 200,000 miles isn't as big of a deal if you're getting 12 miles per gallon. So that's where a lot of that math tends to happen. We do see on a lot of the white fleet vehicles and even some of the 1,500, 2,500s, the manufacturer mandates that are out there of getting to a certain corporate average fuel economy is pushing the average MPG up. A good example would be on like 1,500 pickup truck. We're now around 19 to 21 miles per gallon on most of those makes and models. Ford has a 30 mile per gallon one nowadays. So does Ram, where 5-6 years ago you were looking at that average being more in the 16 to 17 range. So
But if you're buying a vehicle every 3 or 4 years, I mean, you're keeping up with that.
yeah, for sure. Typically, you guys, on average, I mean, I think 9-year replacement cycle is what you guys were dealing with. So that does play a factor. The other factor is when people run vehicles for a long time, they tend to have a hand-me-down approach for the non-specialized stuff that Commissioner King was talking about, where I'm driving a Tahoe because the sheriff didn't want to use it anymore, but really I could get away with a Ford Escape or something like that. So lots of different ways we look at it, but we got the fuel data from Ms. Brenda and use replacements with today's fuel economy to give our estimates on fuel savings.
My new Chevy is getting 18 to 21, and it's a 1,500 four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
Can you explain the maintenance part of the package?
Sure. Yeah, so all vehicles can be added to our maintenance management program. What it does is you have, for the duration of the lease, for example, a 60-month lease on a half-ton truck, if, just to use round numbers, you'll be paying $60 a month, for example. What that does is you have access to all maintenance, scheduled or unscheduled maintenance with our shops. We did find about 6 of them being here in the area, so the dollars can stay in the area. And anything really from an oil change to an engine replacement is going to be taken care of by that program. The way for your drivers, it just creates that easier approach to where all they have to do is drive it to the approved vendor. They're going to present the maintenance card that we'll give them, and we'll take it from there. It's going to be an AEC certified technician that's going to make sure to everything that's requested gets approved and gets done. Whenever it gets done, we pay for it, and the driver gets a call whenever the vehicle is ready. What that does is we keep all the maintenance records also, so it gets loaded onto our website, and we have a lot more visibility into the maintenance that is going into the vehicles. If you have those vehicles that are not being well taken care of, you're going to get those notifications, so we can make sure we have that visibility to be able to have that conversation with the drivers.
those vendors be local, or will they be in San Antonio?
No, they are local. We have 6 vendors here in the area. City of Floresville is now utilizing that program too. And if there's, we talked about it with Ms. Brenda, and some of those vendors are already being utilized by the county. So you can just keep that process, but now instead of you paying each one, it just go through us.
And what, I'm assuming that this is going to be a lease, so it's a standard thing if there's an accident. So if anybody gets in an accident, and y'all are going to decide where it gets repaired, then how does that, are we just responsible for any deductible, or is y'all's insurance cover that, or our
Yeah.
insurance cover that, or how's that?
So just like the finance portion of the lease, from like a physical damage standpoint, think of it kind of the same way as it's owned or on lien or something like that. I mean, you'd be responsible for carrying your own insurance just like you would on an owned vehicle.
So whenever, what happens to that vehicle if it's totaled out? What do y'all do with it? Take it back and
It's kind of
flip it, or what?
It's kind of between you, our loss division, and your insurance carrier. In a total loss situation, we have a vested interest in making sure that our remaining principal is covered. So we get involved in that to ensure that you're getting treated fairly and all that. But in most like normal minor damages, you would work with your insurance company, get that repaired, however you guys see fit. If, for instance, you did have a dent in the bumper when the vehicle came in for sale, we don't charge you anything for that. It just probably means you're gonna get $500,000 less in resale because you didn't choose to fix it. So ideally, having newer vehicles creates a positive cultural influence to your drivers and employees and everybody around, that we don't have just a totally beat up old truck. We're gonna take nice care of it, right? So we would encourage you guys to keep the vehicles well maintained and dent-free throughout the vehicle's life, because that continuously adds to the positive culture of having a newer fleet.
Are there certain vehicles to choose from, or are we limited to replacement vehicles? Because we have a lot of departments with different needs and wants.
Yeah, we'll make recommendations on what we believe is the right vehicle for the job, but it's up to you. If your driver prefers to drive a Chevy and we're saying you should do a Ford, we'll tell you what the cents per mile difference is, and you can choose whether or not that 1 cent or 2 cent per mile is worth it to go with that. But
What are
we,
y'all seeing on availability? Because I know that's been one of our biggest
Yeah.
issues.
the sheriff's going to be the most influenced by that this year. Most all vehicles and manufacturers are back to like open ordering. We've been seeing lead times within 3 to 4 months on a lot of the 3/4 ton pickups, half-ton pickups, things like that over the past quarter and a half. The Chevy Tahoe, unfortunately, is going to be on limited constraint, but we've been seeing people like Dodge step up with their Durango with unlimited ordering capabilities. We're not quite back to normal. Model year 25 is just right around the corner, so we'll know even more over the next next month and a half. But incentives have come back in large regard, and we're seeing a lot of good stuff, positive momentum in that regard.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
What about colors, specifically for the law enforcement? I mean, white doesn't get it. I mean, do we get a choice? Like if the sheriff wants all black vehicles, or?
Yeah, I'll blanket that by just saying you have all the rights to ownership of these vehicles, just like if you guys paid cash for them or went out and got a lien. So if you want to do purple vehicles or whatever, that's fine with us, Sheriff. You can do what you want, but we'll make recommendations though, because if you have an all orange fleet, it's probably not going to do as well in the resale, right? So we'll advise on that. But yeah, most of our counties and cities do some combination of white, black, blue. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit, excuse me, can you talk a little bit more about what you have on your commercial? You mentioned, like, for example, water trucks. What, you do dump trucks, water trucks, what do you do?
Yeah. I mean, We will go outside of like the 26,000 pound range if it's necessary for you guys. It's not our primary cup of tea. We try to leverage as much resources we have from our rental side of things, our sister company. And usually the max they do is the 26,000, but we have an entire medium and heavy duty team that will consult with your folks to make sure that we have the right fit and the right chassis for the job. Sheriff, I think you had a consult with them maybe at some point, but maybe not. Okay. But yeah, our team will match any upfit that you guys currently have, help you guys with new upfits, and we're really hands-on with that.
Well, just to clarify on that, what we did with the sheriff, you shared with us the specs of all the aftermarket equipment you needed for the vehicles, and what we do is we get with that team, and they put out a request for a bid. We did receive 4 different ones with different pricing, and we provided that information over to Brenda, and we make the decision based on, yes, cost, but also how fast they can get the vehicles back to us. So we've been seeing on the aftermarket, with the aftermarket equipment vendors, anywhere from 2 months to sometimes 12 months where the vehicles just stay there because their backlog is so backed up. So that comes to consideration too. So that whole team is making sure we can deliver the vehicle as fast as possible.
I was just gonna add, one of the big benefits of it too is that as opposed to now where you have a need, you go out and buy a vehicle, it may sit for 6 to 12 months while it's getting upfitted. Our program is all about trying to get you guys as proactive in your planning as possible. You guys don't pay for a vehicle until it hits the ground and is ready for use. So while we're waiting for the vehicle to come in, we're already ordering all the upfit. It should come about in line with when it arrives at the dealer, and that is in line with the upfitter at that point too. So we don't start the process over again once the vehicle is found or hits the ground. It's already in progress, and we have you not pay for the vehicle until you actually get it in hand.
Sheriff, you like that program? Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? All right.
Obviously, I think you already addressed the fact that we're not fully corrected in our supply chain. But if we had a vehicle that we knew was totaled, you could tell the day that the accident happened. We don't have to wait for the deliberation between your company, our insurance company. We can go, we need to replace this vehicle. And y'all start the hunt for doing it. The rest of it gets worked out after the fact.
Yep. Yeah. So you'll be given 2 dedicated account team members. One's responsibility is actively reaching out to local dealers for immediate needs, total losses, or a new position or something like that, or a new project that you guys have coming up. We'll work primarily with state contract dealers to make sure we're getting you the best possible front-end cost during the supply chain shortages. A lot of times we had to go outside of the state contract dealers to find the inventory. So we have our entire dealer network across the country where we probably have an Enterprise Rent-A-Car in their back lot to have those relationships to get that done for you.
And representation, y'all are both here. Are y'all San Antonio local? Are you
Yep.
somewhere else in the state?
Ricardo and I both live in San Antonio. We have 17 people here locally in San Antonio that support new business development as well as account management and local leadership teams. We have a local CFO for credit line approvals and all that. And then we do have 7 staff that are part of our admin support that are throughout the country.
So Commissioner, that was one of my biggest questions or needing clarification is that how do they assign, and would we be calling like a call center and get a different person every time? And to which he said we are assigned dedicated people, so it's always the same person that we would be contacting for if it's replacement, insurance, whatever. So
Yeah.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but that's
No,
my
well,
understanding.
you said it just fine. One of those people would be working with y'all to get your strategy for your capital budgets in line. They'll be giving you the numbers behind everything. They're your strategic planning arm. The other one's like a day-to-day contact to answer questions about registrations or finding new vehicles, stuff like that.
Final questions. So the network that you already have in place to be able to do the routine maintenance, can you get us a list of the vendors that you have locally? The next thing is that we all have vendors that we're already using. Can you reach out to them to be able to try to get it to where we can continue to use them if they will take and work under your terms? Or how do you do your outreach to get new vendors on your list?
Yeah, I guess the short answer to that is yes, sir. We do try to limit the amount of new vendors that we take on as a way of being able to leverage priority and good pricing with our existing vendors.
Right.
If we just spread it out to everybody, they wouldn't give us as much.
Nobody would take and.
Yeah, they wouldn't give us as much consideration and pricing and time, right? But by committing to them, and certainly if you have a vendor that does something very specialized for you, that makes a lot of sense to add them in the program. But if there's shop A that you like slightly more than site B right next to each other, and site B is just a hair under site A, we would probably say use site B as most you can.
And I tried to look at the list to make sure, excuse me, to make sure that there was a vendor available in every precinct, and whether or not the county already has an established relationship with them. I don't remember exactly in 4, but that was one of the questions that I asked too is, can we take it to someone else if it's not on their list?
And they know, time is money. Being able to drop off at a moment's notice and have that vehicle looked at and repaired in a timely manner, there's a price that goes with that, versus tying up 2 people to drive somewhere to drop the vehicle off and then having to do the same thing. That's one of the reasons it's important is, what to turn around when we do have to get these vehicles maintained.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll make sure you guys have ample access to all that information, and your drivers and your department heads will as well. But yeah, it's a balance of time versus money, right? And we have a lot of oversight, and our savings over our 750,000, I believe last year was past $60 million that we saved over those 700,000 cards for our clients. We document every savings of negotiated labor rates, or you can get that part over there for cheaper, that type of thing. But in the essence of getting your folks back on the road quickly, we ask you to use trusted shops. If there's somebody you want on the program that you feel really comfortable with, definitely ask your account manager if we can add them. And like I said, I'll get a list over to Brenda of the local ones in your precinct area.
And just one last thing to add on that, we do have driver training programs, so we'll come out here. We'll ask if we can get the drivers together. We'll have 1 to as many as needed, so we can roll out the program to the drivers. The more they know, that way they can ask any other questions, and we'll be here locally so that we can answer those questions for them.
Vehicles down long-term, what do we do about that?
Most of it falls under like the manufacturer warranty stipulations. Obviously, we have a relationship with our sister company, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, as well. So if you need temporary needs while something's down, you would do that. But again, kind of like everything we've talked about today, you'd have all the rights and responsibilities of owning a vehicle that you would have if you were to purchase the vehicle. But yeah, we definitely help with being able to get temporary vehicles off the state contract pricing through Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Enterprise Truck Rental, or leveraging what's called manufacturer assistance on some warranty issues. Our National Service Department will call and get specialty assistance from a manufacturer level, even if the dealer won't cover something. We can sometimes get rentals covered in long-term warranty situations.
That's what I'm asking, because sometimes you don't get parts, so.
Yep.
Vehicles
Oh,
down
yeah.
because we're waiting on parts, it's not the dealership, it's not,
Yep.
it's the parts.
Absolutely.
That's
And
why making sure we got something to cover that.
yeah, so over the last like 5 years, the manufacturers have realized that they need to compensate people for certain things like extended lead time, shipping time, what's called goodwill assistance when you're 2,000 miles out of warranty or something like that, or this part's taking forever, can you help us out with some rental assistance? And we work directly with the manufacturer, take out the middleman or the dealer who doesn't necessarily have a vested interest in getting that done. We'll call the manufacturer directly and get assistance in that area.
One question I didn't ask, is it multiple leases by department? Or is it one giant lease for the entire county when it comes to the actual paperwork?
The master lease agreement will outline the terms and conditions of the overall relationship and definitions like lessor, lessee, and payment terms and all that. And then each individual lease schedule for each individual vehicle will be an addendum to that master term.
And I did send the original master agreement to council for review prior to, and she didn't see any issues with it. Of course, it's not associated with any dollars or any specifics because, again, this is for information and decision on whether or not you want to.
So each year, your account manager will work with you guys individually to review your budget for the upcoming year and make a recommendation on which vehicles to replace. If you choose to replace the vehicles we say, then we'll have a individual lease agreement for that one vehicle. Once that lease agreements, come to completion, if you decide that you want to continue doing your own thing, that's totally fine. There's no overarching like long-term commitment.
Any other questions, Commissioner?
I have a business card.
I've got an electronic one. I got one in the car. I'll grab you one. Yes, sir.
On this photo, you're showing 24 vehicles for the first year in my office. All those vehicles right now, we own them. They're not yours already. How is the changeover? Are y'all gonna take those vehicles and resell them as part of this lease? Or will I just liquidate them as we get the one from Taylor?
Whatever makes the most sense. I mean, any decommissioning that you need to do, you can do that. We have many avenues of people trying to buy old police vehicles and sheriff vehicles, so we can assist in the sale of them per the laws.
Things that I guess sparked my attention is because right now the sheriff, and some of you guys do it too, but mostly the sheriff goes through the online auction to sell our outdated vehicles, whereas they would take responsibility for doing all of that with our current fleet and try to get a better dollar for it because that money then goes back into our budget for use in future lease payments.
Yeah, and it's about 85% of the time right now, we're selling direct to wholesale dealers as opposed to going through auctions. So you avoid the auction fees, you avoid maybe a quarter of the year between the time you decommission it and the time it actually gets sold. We're selling it, an average disposition, we call it, of 21 days between the time that we have it ready for sale and the time that we sell it.
Okay, well, I guess what it amounts to is I decommission as I got a replacement. So how much lead time am I gonna have to get this car, all the outfitting out of it, so it's ready to go to sale before I get the new ones?
Yeah, I mean, in the situation where you're talking about transferring equipment from one to the next,
Some of this, I'm still, on the vehicles we're still using old equipment. I'm still not, very little of what's in these older cars is actually.
Yeah.
in the new ones, right?
Yep.
We're getting to the point that I'm just about ready to do that, where I can just swap the stuff in the car.
Yeah, so an example would be, we would, for any new equipment you need to put on the vehicle, we would go through an upfit vendor of your choosing or our recommendation. The vehicle would be completed to the point that they can with the equipment they have. You would then take on the vehicle and the lease payments associated with that. And then you would transfer your equipment that you're capable of doing. And then as soon as you tell us then that one's ready to be picked up, we come pick that up and lease charges on that one stop. So however fast you can do the changeover is how fast you don't have that multiple lease payment.
I was gonna go back, I just remember from that slide, you were showing the average cost per mile, so how do you bill us? Or how, are we paying $424.17 a month or whatever it is for a specific vehicle or?
Yeah, it's a principal payment made up of a management fee and interest, and, sorry, it's a monthly lease payment made up of principal, management fee, and interest.
And that's unlimited miles per month or in terms of?
Yeah, again, I mean, we're setting up the residual that we're paying it down to, the amount of principal we're paying per month. We're setting that up based on an anticipated annual miles and an anticipated retirement date. So if you go significantly more miles per month, your vehicle's just not gonna be worth as much at the end as we thought it would. But we'll be monitoring your mileage patterns to make sure that we're in line with your monthly pay down, your principal payment, to hit the ideal target, so you still have that equity at the end.
So if that's the case, there's a balloon payment?
Yeah, so in the example we used above, I think it was like a $40,000 vehicle. We paid it down to 10. We were anticipating selling it for 22. If you did exactly that many miles and we got that $12,000 of equity, that's yours. But if you went 50,000 miles more over that time period, maybe it's only worth 12. You've paid it down to 10, so you still have equity, but it's just not as much as we anticipated.
Well, the Tahoes are costing $75,000 out the door without the radio. The lighting package and the vehicles come in and around that number.
Yep.
And so if we accelerate getting rid of them to where we're doing that in 3 or 4 years, conceivably, we would be under 100,000 miles, but our officers put a lot of travel
Yep.
on them. And so I'm trying to figure out, is there a hiccup at the end that,
Yeah, we're gonna be monitoring that throughout to make sure you're not in.
you're gonna keep us surprised?
Yeah,
that, hey,
yeah.
this vehicle is running
Yeah.
hot rather than cold on
Let's
it.
move that one over here and move this one over here type of deal.
And those 2 points, all the information or all that analysis was based on your actual information. So Brenda, we've been working with Brenda over the last few months to put that information together, so.
Yeah, but some of that might have been skewed because you have old vehicles that may be parked right now that aren't being used because of repair parts or because.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how many you have that,
We've been
There-
trying to keep it updated as the sheriff sells it. He sends
Been
me
giving you the
this, I
information.
send it back to them and say, okay, let's update again. And so it's gonna be.
y'all been interacting
evolving.
for a month and a half, 2
Yeah.
months. on
Oh,
it.
yeah.
It's gonna
Longer
be
than that.
an
Longer than
evolving spreadsheet because I just got an updated spreadsheet this morning that may change if we have some more vehicles.
And to your point, Commissioner, is we're probably conservative in the savings numbers that we're showing you because we're replacing like for like. And you probably have some vehicles on there that are going way less miles than the average that we're saying replace with a new vehicle at that equivalent mile, or that average miles, right? So there's probably vehicles that are underutilized or sold that we're accounting for as you should buy a new vehicle, which isn't gonna be the case in practice.
Specialty vehicles have a sign truck that is worn out, and every trip that it goes out, the engine may stay solid, the transmission may, or it may not make it back in.
We're trying to avoid that.
Okay, but can we order those type of vehicles, one that is outfitted for certain?
Yeah, again,
Certain
you
jobs.
guys have all the rights and responsibilities of.
So we go
any other
find it
purchase.
and then you go, hey, we found somebody who has it possibly cheaper. Will you
Yeah,
look at this?
ideally, you tell your account manager what you need. We get our upfit team involved, and we're doing that planning in advance so we can order direct from the manufacturer and avoid having to pay convenience charges of finding something immediately available. But as we're going into this process, we're not just gonna rip off the Band-Aid and say replace everything, right? It's gonna take a while to step into it. So you're gonna have instances where you have something break down and we need to find something immediately, but we'll try to just keep you as proactive in that planning as possible.
I lied to you, I had another question in me.
No
Shoot.
worries.
Nobody's surprised.
Okay, we're about 6 minutes away from going back to agenda item number 6 and 7. We have any other questions for the gentleman? Okay.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, guys.
Agenda item 8B, Brenda, we discussed this. This is not to take action to approve anything. It's just to.
Right, so what I need to know from the court for budgeting purposes, right, is whether or not you want to take action on moving forward with allowing Enterprise, myself, and the judge to start doing the legwork by department to determine by department what needs or wants to be replaced so that I can get an actual good, solid dollar amount for our upcoming budget. Whether or not you want to consider moving forward now with it, now would be the time to allow us to do it. If you decide this is not the year to do it and we want to do it next year, that's okay too. I just need to know from a time constraint how you want to move forward. So that's why I worded it as such, because you're not actually approving a lease agreement or to enter into contract with them. It would be approving us to continue the work.
I'd make a motion to discuss and take action so we can see some numbers. So make a motion to approve the fleet management services so we can, with the judge and Brenda and Enterprise, so we can see what the numbers are.
Do you have a second?
I'm listening to the way you said that. Is that sufficient? I mean, to build it? All right, I'll second it the way that it was.
The idea would be to come back.
We're on a fact-finding mission.
We talked about this.
It's exactly right, fact-finding.
July 22nd. Hopefully that'll give us enough time to meet with everybody, decide by department, and then give you an outline of this is what it would be by department, this is what they've decided to do, et cetera. And really, the bulk of it's gonna be in the sheriff's department. If he decides he only wants to try it out and do 5 vehicles, that's okay too. He's not tied to the full recommendation. So I just need to know if you want us to work toward it.
My question is how does this fit in the procurement process? Because I don't think this is a professional service. I think this needs to be bid.
They are.
Or unless they're on the
board.
Yeah, he showed it, Sourcewell and TIPS, which we are part of both. So I made sure of that before we started the program, or the research, sorry.
That's kind of why I want to see the numbers.
And so a question, not to slight y'all, but how many other companies provide this same service that are out there? You know, that, I
They're
mean,
the ones that have been on me for the last 3 years, and I haven't responded. So I don't
There
know.
are multiple
I don't know.
fleet management service providers on the Sourcewell and TIPS.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner King, seconded by Commissioner Aiken. Do we have any other discussion on 8B? And did we get that down right on what the motion was? Okay. Any other discussion, Commissioners? Hear none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
All those against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we're about 1 minute away. Back to agenda item number 6 and 7. Okay, so for the minutes, we're just going to mention that there's 60-plus DMV certificates, correct? For Marciela Arena that need to be added to the next Commissioners Court meeting. Never brought in. Okay. Thank you.
Screen again.
See how long it lasts.
We're gonna
Eight-
start
eight
with
seconds.
EOC, right?
Yes,
first.
EOC is
Okay.
first, yeah.
Okay, the time is 10 o'clock a.m. We move back to agenda item number 6. Ms. Trevino will be discussion only. Open seal bids for construction of new emergency operations center.
So I will read the respondents, just the name, and then as usual, we'll have the evaluation and then make a recommendation to the court at some point. I don't have the date with me. I need to go back and look at it, but. So the first one, this is for the construction of the Emergency Operations Center. And the first one is from Guido Construction Company.
Read the amount.
If I need to, I can,
Yeah,
but, I mean,
normally
I
that's
don't know that it's. Well, I mean, there are multiple options, so I don't know that the pricing, I mean, if that's necessary at this point, because we're gonna.
Just read
have
the
it.
first one, the lump sum.
Okay.
That's,
All right. Lump sum, $6,198,474.
Can you repeat that?
6,198,474. The next one is from D. Wilson Construction. $6,775,000 lump sum.
What was the first name? I was coughing.
D.
The
D.
initial
D as in
D.
David.
Thank you.
And then Wilson Construction. The next one's from the Kaler Company. $6,751,000 lump sum. There's the flash drive. The fourth one is from Broadus Construction LLC. In the book. $6,260,600. 6260600. The next one is from Nunnally General Contractors, Nunnelly. I'm gonna go ahead and open the envelope as well that are sealed. So it's FA Nunnally Contractor, doing business as Nunnally General Contractor, $7,195,000. Flash drive in there as well. And so we do have our firm who is RVK is our firm who has been working with all of the bids. So we'll be turning this over to them, establishing the team, the evaluation team, and then come back to court for recommendation.
5 bids total.
Five total, yes. Unless I missed one over here, but we'll see. The next one, Judge?
Next will be open RFPs for Wilson County Health, General Liability, Law Enforcement, Public Officials Liability, Umbrella, and Workers' Compensation Insurance policies.
All right. I'm going to start. Okay, so we're going to start with, in order. This is for opening bids for group medical proposal, and it's our request for proposal 24-1005. The first one is from United Healthcare. Maybe I might need a box opener.
I've got a knife, but I'm,
Okay.
want to know how bad the wound's going to be whenever she.
The next one is from the Texas Association of Counties Health and Employee Benefits Pool.
Heck.
Texas Association of Counties. The next one is from, I guess it's MetLife. I'm assuming, yeah, I just didn't know if it was an agent, but it says MetLife. Let me make sure that. Yep. Jalen, can you double check the boxes to make sure there aren't any workers' comp and liability ones in there as well? Since we had multiple policies being bid, I'm having Jalen go through each box to confirm that there aren't any workers' comp and liability proposals included in the same box from the same vendor. And this is from Tally Benefits, group medical proposal.
Brandon, just to make a note, there's the proposals in there from United Healthcare, TAC, the Aetna Renewal, and Cigna. So those are all done.
That may not have gotten over for everybody who's listening in. So you said it was,
Yeah, so in my proposal, there's the identical proposal from United Healthcare,
United,
TAC,
TAC,
Cigna,
Cigna,
and of course the Aetna Renewal.
and Aetna Renewal. Okay.
So just for clarification, Commissioner, we only score based on we only evaluate based on submitted by company. So we will evaluate each package and determine what's best for the county as a whole. So
If
we won't-
United showed up with something lower than Tally did with the United bid, we would,
Correct,
okay.
correct. I believe that is all of the medical ones. Okay. Next is 1007, and this is for workers' comp. I'm sorry, 1006 for casualty and liability. This one, I don't know, Commissioner. I'll let you get that. Oh, it's right here. And then one more right there. All right. We have from Texas Association of Counties Risk Management Pool. And I believe that's the only one. And the last one is 1007. That one is workers, correct. That one has workers' comp in it. Yeah. And this one is from Agent Frank Pruski, Livonia Insurance Agency, Workers' Compensation. So what we will do with all of these is we do have an insurance committee. We'll be meeting with the insurance committee hopefully within the next few weeks and come back with a recommendation to the court for awarding all of these.
We're done with it. Okay. Agenda item number 9, we have again, Ms. Brenda Trevino, discuss take action on awarding contract for the Wilson County Hazard Mitigation Plan update.
Okay. As you recall, we were awarded a contract with the General Land Office for funding to update our hazard mitigation plan. It's been a year-and-a-half project, and so we're finally down to awarding a contractor. We did go out for sealed requests for proposals. We received six packages. We did form a scoring committee, which consisted of the county judge, myself, Kristen Labus, our emergency management department, and Commissioner King. So each of you should have been, I emailed you the evaluation sheet. I do have a copy, though, just so that you can see it.
We have,
Oh, you have it in your binder, okay. So the scoring evaluation sheet was a template that was provided to us by the General Land Office, as well as other counties who have gone out for similar projects. And so we created the scoring evaluation sheet according to those identifying factors. And then every person, as we evaluated, scored. So as you can see there, we have the total scores percentages based on applicable related experience was 40%, creditable client references with contractor background, personnel background, and financial background weighted 25%. Cost was a 20% factor, and then the production schedule for the contract was 15%, and that is because we are held to certain time limits by the General Land Office and FEMA and the Texas Department or Division of Emergency Management. So after it was all said and done, you'll see the scores there. Out of the 6, 1 applicant was deemed ineligible and was not scored. We had Langford Community Management Services scored at 49%. Witt O'Brien's at 48%, Katmai Solutions at 59%, Grant Works at 71%, and H2O Partners scored at 89%. And so it is our recommendation to the court that we approve awarding the contract to H2O Partners to update our hazard mitigation plan. Are there any questions?
What is the deadline to have this?
I'm sorry?
The deadline, you said there was a deadline to get it done?
So there are multiple deadlines. The awarded contractor will have until the end of this year to get us a plan so that we can get it to TDM. Once TDM then approves it, TDM has to then turn it over to FEMA for FEMA's final approval. That's the one that takes the longest. So we're anticipating hopefully having it all completed by April of 2025. I believe it's April 30th, if I'm not mistaken. I have the timeline that I can send to you as well. And I do have a copy. Well, we've got all of them, but I did bring H2O Partners' proposal if anyone wanted to see it.
All right, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion that we accept the H2O Partners, the award for the hazard mitigation plan update.
I'll make a motion to accept H2O Partners to work our Wilson County hazard mitigation plan update.
Motion made by Commissioner King, seconded by Commissioner Perdola. Is there any other discussion regarding agenda item number 9? Hear none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Agenda item number 10, discuss and take action on considering selling or donating the church pews in the annex building, the one behind in the library. This would clear up much-needed storage space. Commissioners, we have 21 very long, large, heavy pews that I'm going to have to refer to the seniors on the court. I don't know where those came from. Do either one of y'all know?
I thought maybe it was Sacred Heart.
So we did reach out to Sacred Heart, and it was their old pews.
They're there for 15, 20 years probably.
I don't know what else to do with them other than we try to sell them or give them away. There's no use for them, for us. They're taking up a lot of space over there that we need. That's the first part. Once we get past a resolution of what we need to do with the pews, we have a lot of electronic components left in there that we need to get rid of that's taking up more than half of the building in there, and we need that space for storage. So it's,
So is it just outdated electronic equipment?
oh yeah, there's no use to them. Now, we can wait till, when is it, September?
No, I'm waiting to hear back on a firm date, but it'll either be late October or early November.
Okay. I think we can wait till then, and I don't know, would they be able to take that's a lot of stuff in there, a lot.
Waiting to hear back on what?
We've taken quite a bit before, I think.
taken
We
trailer-
we took a
trailer
trailer
loads.
load last year, right?
Okay, so we can wait till October then for that. Jason's not here. I'll get with him today on that, so. But the big part of it's those pews, and I don't know who would want them.
Would they be reusable in our new?
Well, they're not in bad shape. I mean,
No.
some of them, there's some of them that may have some damage or a scratch, but, I don't know if there's any churches out there that need them. I'll make a motion to donate them to any church or 501c3 that might want them, and if they don't want them, then we can attempt to sell them.
Okay,
Second.
all right. Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner Perdola, that we either find a home for them free or sell them, correct?
Correct.
All right. Any other discussion on agenda item number 10? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, ayes have it, motion passes. Agenda item number 11. I guess, Brenda, you'll be doing this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have to discuss and take action on request to go out for bids on the following for Wilson County. We'll start with 11A, material hauling, material plus hauling.
Yes, sir. And Judge, you can, if you want to do A and B, that's fine. This is just our annual request that we go out for bid for our contracts that begin September 1. We didn't include towing in there because we didn't have that last year. So we're just reviewing material hauling, material plus hauling, bulk gasoline, and diesel.
Okay, I'll combine 11A and B together.
Make a motion that we go out, well, we're gonna build the packets, right? Because we have to name vendors and different products, so that we,
Yeah, you'll get the information from Kristen on, hey, is this the same material? Do you want to add, delete any? We'll have to review the fuel, our fuel contract, that's still up in the air right now, so, for the next 3 months, and then, that also becomes due for September.
all right, so that we go out for bids on materials hauling and materials plus hauling, as well as bulk gasoline and diesel.
Correct.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made by Commissioner Akins, seconded by Commissioner Paradola. We have any other discussion?
I do have a question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Sheriff, how's the towing deal working out since we don't have a contract? Don't need one? Okay. Just wanted to ask.
All right, any other discussion? Hear none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Ayes have it, motion passes. Agenda item number 12 should be on the 22nd agenda, so we're going to bypass that, and that will show up on the next Commissioners Court. Agenda item number 13, we have Ms. Luz Cerato, Permitting and Development Director. A, non-standard plats, variances, 1, County Road 425, 481, Precinct 4, Joanne Van Lowe, discuss and take action.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So this was reviewed before the review committee last Tuesday. They were not present to speak on the split of the property, but this is off of County Road 425. But the piece of property that's being cut out will be facing 123. They do have the approval letter from TxDOT approving them for an access. They have the approval letter from both GVEC and Sunco and an estimate for a new meter. So they're just selling residual land for money, living expenses. This was given a favorable recommendation by the review committee. There is a correction on the variance page. The residual is from the 33.9 instead of I think it's a 38.70 acres.
Okay. What did you say about the 33.9?
On the variance page, on page 3 that I have for here for the signature, yeah, it's incorrect. It said 38.70, but it's actually 33.9.
Yeah, I see that on Intrepid's report. They
Yes.
have it correct.
Yes,
Okay.
Their meets and bounds and the survey is correct. It's just on the paper.
All right, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion on agenda item 13A1.
Judge, I make a motion that we accept this non-standard plat on County Road 425 being referred to as Joanne Van Lowe property.
Motion made by Commissioner Aiken, seconded by Commissioner Paradola. Do we have any other discussion on agenda item number 13? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Ayes have it, and the motion passes.
Can I pass?
Agenda item number 14, we have our Sheriff, Jim Stewart, give our Sheriff's Office progress report. Okay, sir, thank you. Discuss and take action on the Commissioner Court meeting from Genevieve Martinez, and I think we already have that in 15.
And the June minutes will be reviewed by the county deputy auditor.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to accept the County Commissioners Court minutes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Commissioners Court minutes as presented.
Second.
Ooh, that was a close tie there. Motion made by Commissioner Paradola, seconded by Commissioner King. Is there any other discussion on agenda item number 15?
Judge, I'd just like to point out, since Mr. Vino was absent, that at that meeting on June 10th, under item 14B, that we voted as a court to provide funding for the 250 Patriot marker to be placed into next year's budget in the amount of $5,555 to pay for that marker that'll go out in front of the church. So,
Okay. Commissioner, does that, okay, was that going to be part of the, what Mr. Delgado's asking, like 7,900? Is that part of it? Because I think it is, isn't it?
I believe, yes,
Okay,
I
all right.
believe I have the budget request in the worksheet, and I believe that was included.
That was part of it. Okay, that clears that up.
Yes, thank you for letting me know.
All right.
'Cause I always-
Okay, so noted for the record. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, a call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against? Motion passes. Agenda item number 16, we have J. Lynn Bodiford, our Human Resource Specialist, presentation of parole and personnel changes.
Good morning. Hugo Castro was hired as a corrections officer for the Sheriff's Department, making $18.93 per hour, or $41,343.12 annually, effective today, July 8th. Kevin Tucker was hired as a road hand for Precinct 2, making $20 per hour, or $41,600 annually, effective today, July 8th. And Ruth Ann Rutherford resigned from her position as a kitchen staff for the Sheriff's Department, effective July 4th.
Thank you. Ms. Brenda Trevino, our County Auditor, discuss and take action on county bills. That's agenda item number 17.
Yes, I have bills that I've reviewed and approved, and in the amount of $284,628.66.
Put this. Because if you did, I didn't get it. I just, gonna take me a minute. Thank you. Bond commitments did you get? 13,000.
Y'all a few minutes to look that over.
The whole system.
To make the JP office ADA compliant.
Yeah, we'll put it on
And just as a reminder, it doesn't have anything to do with bills, but we will hold our budget workshop on July the 22nd in the afternoon. I'm sorry, at 1:30, yes, sir. And I'll send you an email, just kind of an overview of what that will look like.
So since we had a conversation with Enterprise a while ago, I'm just looking at the sheriff's stuff real quick. Are most of these your older vehicles that you're going to jam with? Okay, and I asked that because that cost will be incurred in the Enterprise, basically. Okay, that's why I'm bringing it up, just to clarify.
Not on our existing vehicles, on
No, no,
replacement
on the
vehicles.
replacement
Correct.
vehicles.
Yeah, so basically,
If
if
we
the
went
sheriff were
with
to
a
decide to replace all of those vehicles, then yes, basically that goes away.
The power of the plan is they send you notifications as long as you keep giving them your mileage and they go, take this vehicle in the next week. And so hopefully you're taking the human factor out of it and doing it.
I kind of want to like start with like maybe 10, see how it goes.
I just hope they're better to deal with enterprise car rental. I just hope they're better to deal with the enterprise car rental. Enterprise car rental is not, they're very nice to do.
Can I still vote on it? I'm just checking.
Good.
All right, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to take action on the county bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $284,628.66.
Second.
Kill 'em.
You always give it to the person closest to you, so give it.
Don't ask me. to
Motion
arm-
made by
don't ask
Commissioner
me to
King,
arm
seconded
wrestle.
by Commissioner Paradola. Is there any other discussion on 17? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, ayes have it, motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Aiken. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, we are adjourned.
10:30, that wasn't bad.